Hey folks, I hope everybody's doing good. I figured I'd make a video because I had a crazy couple weeks, man. You guys ain't even gonna believe this. This has been nuts. I'm trying to figure out where to start here. So okay, this is what happened. About 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago. I was just, doing what I do, working. I got my PET scan results back. I'm actually doing very well. Well, I should say I was doing very well. I had it on the ropes again. And all I had to do was just continue what I was doing. And, we had great results. We have nothing in dangerous areas. We have everything that I did have was very small. I mean, it was a really awesome cancer test result. I was excited. So a little bit after that, I was just working, and this is where it all went to shit real quick. And this is what I try to explain to people, like why I can't do certain things sometimes, and why I have to, basically live the way I do, is because this goes to shit so fast, and this is gonna prove it to you. So I was working, just doing things around the house, and I think it was on Friday, and Friday night I looked at my wrist here, my right wrist, and it was like kind of red, like a deep bruise, kind of red, and I'm like, well, I think I might have bumped it, because you know how you're just like rolling around and doing work, and you like hit your arm and you're like, ow, and then you just keep going, about your business, and it wasn't anything serious, and then I didn't think nothing of it. I really didn't. So I was like, okay, just back to work. That was Friday night, and it was like a red. I thought I just smacked my wrist off of something, And then started Saturday. Got up Saturday and felt like I had tendonitis in my elbow. Just the tendons hurt. It's just sore, and I'm like, man, I really must have overdid it, And it's like, I probably should take it easy. Well, Saturday night, it moved up into my shoulders, or up my right shoulder, started spreading across my chest. It was just this crazy nerve pain. Well, that's not uncommon for me, because, as you all know, last year around about this time, with the whole nerve thing, and I was paralyzed because cancer went in my spine, my spinal fluid, and quite accustomed to nerve pain today. And weird things happen, with me all the time. Weird things happen with nerves all the time on me. And honestly, I didn't really think anything of it. I was just like, oh, here we go. What's going on now? I just started babying it, and got to the point towards Saturday night where it hurt so bad I didn't even get off the chair. Like, I was in the big chair and I wouldn't move. It just hurt. And I was like, all right, I did something stupid, or something's angry, whatever. Went and took a hot shower, and everything went away. All the pain went away. It actually felt pretty decent. And I was like, oh, all right, well, it's not too big of a deal, and went to bed. During this time, I was like chugging water. I could not drink enough water. Like, I just couldn't. I was just so thirsty, and I'm like, what the hell, what's going on? That's when I probably should have known that I was in kind of a little bit of trouble, but, you just don't think anything of it. So, Saturday night, passed, and I woke up Sunday morning, and Becky took my temperature, and I had a temperature of 105.7. That fast. Started on Friday. This was Sunday morning. So I decided, I was like, well, probably should go to the ER. Something's wrong. Now, normally in a cancer patient like me, when you pop a fever, you know, when you're doing chemo and stuff, you got to go now. You have to go to the hospital now. Because that, like, I'm so used to being sick, and I'm so used to maintaining a daily average of the absolute worst flu that a normal person like you has in their life. You know, the kind of flu where you just want to die or get better. You know, we've all been there in our lives. Well, I wake up every day like that, and I really do. I feel like that constantly, and I have for the last 10 years. So it's not out of the norm for me to feel sick. In fact, I don't even know what it's like to feel normal anymore. It's been 10 going on 11 years, and this is all I've really known forever. So I'm like so used to it. It's normal for me. So I went to the ER at Conemaugh. That was my first mistake, because I really don't care for that hospital. The people that work there are fantastic, but I don't know. Ever since that company, which I'm not going to name so I like don't get sued or something stupid shit happens, ever since they took over that hospital, it's garbage. And honestly, I just don't think, I haven't had any good experience that I've been there. Every time I go there, they try to kill me. I'm not even like over exaggerating. Every single time I go there, it's like the punchline of like sorry, alarm went off. So I'm like, all right, you know, I went to the ER, and I walked into the ER, and I told the lady at the front desk, I was like, hey, you know, I'm feeling a little off. I have a temperature, not feeling so good. I'm not like sick. I have this nerve pain, and it's weird stuff going on, and I need to get it looked at because, you know, cancer patient and all that jazz. And I honestly thought maybe I got COVID again. I was like, I think I might have the Delta variant, you know, which goes through your head. I mean, popped a fever and stuff and just hit so fast. And I've had COVID, you know, already. I played that fiddle and just lost my taste for 2 weeks. And I was like, well, you know, I could get it in. You know, chemo could wipe out my immune system. These experimental drugs that I'm on, they have no idea. You know, I can't get vaccinated because it just wouldn't do nothing. You know, the chemo would just wipe it out, and why go deal with the side effects if you don't get any end result and all that stuff. So I honestly thought I had COVID again. Like, I thought I got the new Delta variant. I'm like, oh, here we go. Went into, you know, the ER guys did all their vitals and stuff, and that's when we knew I was in trouble, because when they took my blood pressure was 74 over 40 or something like that. It's ungodly. Like, there's people who have heart attacks and are dead, and people are doing CPR on them and pumping for them, and they have better blood pressure than I walked into the hospital with. And yeah, I was in trouble. I was hurting so bad that they sent me straight to the ICU, where I spent a week in the ICU. This was 2 weeks ago. They did blood cultures on me and found out that I had Streptococcus B. Somehow entered my bloodstream, and I went septic. I was in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. Now, Streptococcus B is, you know, everybody knows about strep throat and stuff like that. This is a different Streptococcus bacterial infection. So everybody on their skin, all over your skin, you have this. It's a natural occurring bacteria on your skin. Everybody has it. For the most part, it doesn't do anything to you. Somehow, some way, it entered my blood and went septic. I was not doing very well at all. My blood pressure was ungodly low. My body tried to mount a response, but it got steamrolled. It took my white blood cell counts, my red blood cell counts, my hemoglobin, my platelets, and basically just took it down to zero. Like, I was done. My kidneys were starting to go hinky and shut down, and it was bad. I was in really bad shape. I had 3 IVs going at the same time. I had an IV in each arm and then my port, and they were just pumping me full of as much fluid as I could. I was severely dehydrated, it was like really, really bad. It was obviously so bad I was in the ICU. And yeah, that happened. And then they tried to give me a drug. I don't know if they didn't read my chart or whatever, but tried giving me an IV drug. And I'm just trying not to go into much detail because I don't want to get in trouble, but tried giving me an IV drug that helps your blood pressure come up. And come to find out that they're not supposed to be given a post-stem cell cancer patient like myself. I had a stem cell transplant back in 2011. You're actually not allowed to give that IV drug to that person because you could kill them. And well, they gave it to me. And I had an allergic reaction and it was borderline anaphylactic shock. And it got really squirrely, like really bad. So I survived that too. And then they moved me off the ICU and stuck me in a room in Conemaugh, which smelled like mouse feces. So horrible that it made me nauseous and I threw up. And then they moved me to another room. It was a freaking rodeo, you know. Finally, I was just like, send me home. I want to go home. I don't want to be here. This is not going well for me. So we worked out a deal that I would go home. And I have a needle. I don't know if you guys can see, but I have my port access and I take IV antibiotics every day. I give it to myself to I'll probably be doing that for the next, it's 6 weeks total, so I'm 2 weeks into it. So yeah, it became a disaster. But the good news is I made it. I'm still not out of the woods by any means. Like I'm hurting. That hurt kind of bad. You know, an infection of that nature is not a good situation for someone like me to be in, but nevertheless, pulled a rabbit out of the hat, and yeah, I made it from that. So yeah, had a septic infection, blood infection, and did that. So I was in the ICU for a week. They finally sent me home. And I'm not, this is crazy. So this has been my life for the last couple weeks. So they finally sent me home after a week in the ICU. I'm pretty banged up, pretty weak, tired, you know, all the above. And then all of a sudden this port just stopped working, which is actually the first time that has ever happened to me. I've had them like do weird things, but never like just up and quit. Like nothing in, nothing out, nothing. So that was bad because I have to take IV antibiotics every 24 hours. I have to, you know, give myself, you know, the injection through my port. And I was like, oh shit, you know, you can't miss a dose, you know. So long story short, we called like everywhere to get me into intervention radiology to try to figure out what's going on with this. Indiana hospital out in, not the state of Indiana, but, you know, like IUP, Indiana, was like, hey, we can get you in tomorrow morning. This was at like 3 o'clock. They're like, we can get you in tomorrow morning at 8. You can be patient number 1. We'll get you in. I was like, cool. So I left and drove out to Indiana hospital, and that was awesome. Those folks out there, by the way, are really good. And we figured the port thing out. I had a blood clot in my port, and it was blocking it. So they put like this, call it cath flow. It's like a clot buster medication in there, and it dissolves the clot, and all's well. So it worked out, right? So this is right when this hurricane hit, right? Yeah, hit Pennsylvania. So I'm on my way home, driving in this like crazy ass rainstorm, and I was talking to my folks because, you know, my folks lived, you know, downstream. Everybody heard about the Wilmore Dam, you know, and how the media blew it up and said, you know, it was failing and all that jazz. Everybody remembers that because that just happened. Well, my parents are downstream from that, and I mean, when I say downstream, I'm talking they're like downstream. You know, I think they're like the second house from that. Probably by about 3 miles they're down the stream, you know. The water was coming up, you know, pretty quick, and my dad and my little sister got everything, that they could moved out before the flood hit. And I had a really close buddy of mine give me a call and said that the dam was in trouble. And he didn't know if I, where my new house was and stuff, but he knew my folks were in the path, like right in the path. So he called me right away and gave me a fair warning. He's like, hey, get a hold of your folks and tell them, get out of the way, get out. So I called my folks, and this is all while I'm driving home from Indiana Hospital. I called my folks, and everybody got, and which is a good news. But my folks got hit really hard. They got flooded really bad, and it really sucks. So I went right out of the ICU and right into my folks got flooded, and helping out the community. So I couldn't really touch anything because obviously, like, I don't really have a great immune system, and I was just in the ICU from a septic bacterial blood infection. So I rolled right in. I have a tractor and I had fuel, so I helped my folks, and my folks had plenty of help. Thank God. Thank you, everybody that helped my folks, because they had an army there, and it was all, my family and stuff, Davey and Amanda, and I mean, they were just godsends, honestly. I mean, rock stars, because I was out of the game. I could be there, I could help coordinate, but I couldn't touch anything, because, that flood water's dirty, and, I was already in trouble pretty bad. But I just, hauled all the stuff out that they had to throw away and took it all, to the dumpsters, and for days. Then I drove around the town of Wilmore helping out the old folks because, that stuff's wet and heavy, and they didn't need to be hauling it, up to the dumpster and trying to do that. So I drove around the town of Wilmore with the tractor and helped folks out. Just they loaded it in the bucket, and I took it up and dumped it, And so that was that. ICU right into flood disaster stuff, and then there's just no break, and here I am now. So how am I doing? I'm doing all right. I mean, I'm just tired. My counts are coming back up. Everything's still on the lower scales. You could probably tell from the video, I got the red ring around my eyes, both eyes and stuff, which is a pretty good indicator that, you're sick, for like cancer patients and stuff. But my counts and stuff are coming back, and they're taking their sweet ass time. I'm just waiting, But that was my couple of weeks, the last couple of weeks. It was insane. Like, you can't even make this stuff up. You honestly can't. It was just such, I don't know, the first thing that popped in my head was, sometimes life doesn't throw you curveballs, it throws you grenades. It does, but my folks are getting everything back together. When I say they got flooded pretty hard, they had 4.5 feet of water, I think. 4 feet of water, I think they determined. The flood insurance place determined in their basement. Yeah. I lost a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff was damaged. There was a massive power surge before the water even reached the house. Just knocked everything out. I mean, it's such a mess. It is such a mess down there. And you kind of have to wonder. You're like, geez, it made me mad. I'll tell you what made me mad the worst is nobody ever gave a shit about that. That area down there in the town of Wilmore floods at a minimum of twice a year. Every year. I grew up there all my life, and I live very close to it even now in my adult life. It floods typically in the spring and typically in the fall every year, and nobody gave a shit ever. But the dam starts getting a little fishy, and it hits national news. Now all these people show up, right? Governor Wolf, flying around doing, stuff and saying disaster relief. Guess what? As soon as the cameras disappeared, that sumbitch disappeared too. And they're not helping the town at all. Now, the Red Cross was there, and they did great things. I saw them there in whatever FEMA agency, I think it was Cambria County or whatever, but it was just like that. They're all gone. And I can tell you right now, that flood insurance is bullshit. Because the list of what they do cover is a hell of a lot shorter than the list that they don't cover. And that's freaking ridiculous. I don't even know why. So they federally make you have flood insurance. You have to. But then when you go to use the flood insurance, they're a bag of boiled assholes. Like, there is not, it is the most worst, it's a freaking racketeering thing. It's like a bunch of criminals, and it's not cheap. I feel horrible for my parents and what they're going through right now. Horrible. And that really pisses me off. And I know you guys don't really see me get upset about anything, but I'm royally pissed off about that. I am pretty pissed off. Now, I don't know if everybody has that same experience, but I don't know. I'm not happy with that at all. And, you know, it was a lot. It's a lot for my folks to handle. It was a lot for me to handle, you know. Just, I mean, it's not about me whatsoever, but, you know, my heart, my brain is with them. My body's shot, you know, from what it just went through. But I'm not going to lie to you. Lost a lot of sleep at night over that, just worrying and hoping and wondering what the heck was going to happen with them. Because, I mean, they're my folks. I love them to death. And I don't know, that flood insurance is bullshit. But thank God they had it anyways. But I don't even know. I mean, I don't even know what they're gonna do. I don't even know what they're gonna cover. They don't either. Like, we're talking, like, they said like 60 days after the fact is when their claim gets cleared. 60 freaking days? They need to change that, because during these events, people need help, and they need help right away. Not 60 days later, not 2 weeks later. That's unacceptable. I don't know. I'm pretty upset about that, as you can tell. But whatever, it is what it is. But that doesn't make it okay. But that was our last couple weeks, and my poor mother had her son in the ICU the week prior, and then the house gets absolutely just flooded big time the next week, and she's just running around on empty. You know, we're not defeated. We're just overrun right now, and everybody's doing good. But they're climbing out. You know, they're doing solid. We got a plan, and they're making things happen, and it's just funny how things, you know, and when it rains, it pours, and no bullshit, it poured. I mean, it did. We got a lot of rain. Got a lot of rain that time. I mean, that was a significant rain event. That flood that just hit us down there in Wilmore was the worst it has flooded since 1977 flood. Now, I haven't been around for a 1977 flood, obviously. I wasn't born in 77. I was born in the 80s. But I always heard stories, and my folks always talked about it, and it was everybody knows it's a 77 flood. That was, you know, everybody knows around here, that was bad. That was a bad event. This was the worst. Now, I think 1993 or 96, I was in middle school. I can't remember, I think it was 93. We got hit real bad in the fall. Was that? No, it was in the spring. We got hit. We got like a huge snowstorm. We got a pile of snow that time, and then it melted, and then it rained a lot. And it flooded pretty bad. You know, you got the watershed from all the snow melting, then you got the rain on top of that, and there's just nowhere for that to go. I remember that flood because they sent me home from middle school early to go help get all the stuff out of barn. This was way worse. Alarm keeps going off because I got shit to do, but I'm going to make this video anyhow. So I'm sorry if you guys are getting annoyed by it. But the barn at my folks' house was just totally flooded. So when I was on my way home, this is just an inclination of how fast this escalated. I was on my way home from Indiana Hospital. It takes about 45 minutes to get home, coming down 422. I was already in the car, so I was probably already about 15, 20 minutes into the drive. I called my sister to find out how they were doing and where the water level was at, because I knew with that amount of rain that we got that it's going to flood. They were getting things out of the shed, you know, like the push lawnmowers and stuff, and things of that nature, and getting it up, moved up top. And the water was at the shed, and they couldn't get to the barn. I have farm equipment in my barn that it was under at a minimum of 5 feet of water. I can guarantee you it. I haven't even got to it yet. I haven't even seen it. I haven't even got there yet to look. But yeah, it's probably toast. I might be able to salvage it. I have no idea. Haven't even looked into that yet. They couldn't even get to the barn. It just started, you know, it was too dangerous. So they started getting things out that they could. By the time they were done getting the last of the stuff out of the shed, they were wading through water. When I talked to them, they were going in, Sarah was going in to get a shower because she was in that crappy flood water, you know. I told her, I said, hey, why don't you just get like a bug out bag and stuff like that. Now, for those of you who don't know what a bug out bag is, it's us military folks call it that, because you literally pack a bag with stuff that you can need overnight and that you can just bug out with, you know. It's kind of like an aviation crew chief term. And I called about a half an hour later telling them to evacuate the house. That's how fast it went up. So that, roughly, just ballpark figure, it probably rose, I'm going to say 20 feet in a matter of 30 minutes. That's how fast. They didn't have a chance to get anything else out. They didn't have time. And when I called him and told him that, you know, the dam is in a little bit of trouble, it would just behoove you to get out now and go to my house, because I'm up higher than the dam. I'm above the dam. They listened, thank goodness, and they bugged out. I drove straight to their house in my Jeep. And when I crossed the road to get to the bridge to go to their house, the water, I had to drive through water on the road, and it was at the bottom running boards in my Jeep. And I went to the house, and there was a police officer sitting in their driveway, and I asked him if they evacuated, if people left my parents' house. And he said, yeah, there were 2 people that left in a vehicle about 5 or 6 minutes prior. And I told that police officer, I said, hey, you know, I wouldn't sit here, because if the dam did break, there would be a wall of water, probably 50 to 70 feet high, moving at around 60, 70 miles an hour, and you're not going to make it out in time. So I would go sit somewhere else. And he listened, and he left. And just in that amount of time, when I turned around to go back to go to my house through the same area with water, the water level rose so high that my Jeep was floating and bouncing, and water was running through the doors and into the Jeep. That's how fast that escalated, and it was nuts. It was an insane event. So now, right now, what are we doing? We're all, you know, trying to pick up the pieces of that. And what am I doing? I'm just trying to be a good boy with this whole infection thing. They halted all my chemos so that I could get over this obvious blood infection. So I did have a really good, you know, cancer report. But as of now, it's probably back to shit, because cancer does what cancer does. And if my immune system's down from the infection, well, I'm digging a hole again. So it's a dance now. I have to try to figure out how I can salvage this somehow. And I don't even know what to do. But I'll keep you guys posted. Best I can. Meanwhile, on a good note, myself, my wife Becky, and my daughter Amelia are, I'm probably going to get out after saying this because I don't really put that much stuff out on Facebook, but we're expecting another child. So Becky's pregnant, and we're really excited about that. I am super, super stoked about it, but I got to start getting a baby room ready and all that jazz. So I have work to do, and that's gonna be good work. But so that's been my week. So it's been crazy, and I wanted to tell you guys this because you literally can't make this shit up. It's so crazy. But everybody's doing great. Everybody's healthy, and you know, rule of thumb is you can't replace people, but you can replace things, and that's where we're at. So we're just getting everything cleaned up, getting their life back together. And I'm being a good little cancer boy and staying out of trouble the best I can. That's what's going on. I'll give you guys an update and let you know how I'm making out and what the plan is as soon as I find out what the plan is. As of now, there is no plan. There's nothing. Just taking IV antibiotics and staying out of trouble. That's it. Well, maybe you can say that's a plan. That's a solid plan. Yeah, that's a solid plan. But I'll keep you guys posted. I'll let you know what's going on. And if you would, just keep my folks in your prayers because they're dealing with a lot. And that would be awesome if you do that because they need them. So, all right. Until next time, which will probably be really soon. Everybody take care. And I'll let you know what's going on. Thanks, folks.